All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with a special episode of Mat Chat. We are brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. This is not live for you, but I'm live from the mean streets of Marietta, Georgia, just outside the ATL, with my good friend and the head coach from Life University, Acosta. Good to see you, brother. How are you?
Good to see you too, Coach.
Yeah,
always good to see you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. This will go up afterwards, but we're here the day before the Life University Open, one of the biggest non-Division I tournaments in the country. We'll just start with that. How did this tournament get so big? What did you do to make that happen?
Oh man, it's just a lot of work. Last year was so big that we had troubles doing it on campus. So we had to actually have to move off campus. Right now, so far, we have over 500 guys registered to wrestle. And it's coming across all divisions, Division II, Division I, Division III, and a whole bunch of different unattached wrestlers are coming in to wrestle. So it's a pretty good event.
You guys are at NAIA, obviously.
Yes,
Last
sir.
year, when I was here, it was you, Grandview, Southeast, Reinhardt. You guys ended up placing 4 out of the top 5 spots at Nationals, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah, so for, people want to see some really good wrestling. I guess this will again have aired, but it'll be live on Flow. So 500 kids, freshman, sophomore in an open division?
Yes, sir.
So we're talking about average 25 man brackets, right?
Yeah, most of the brackets are about 25-man brackets.
So full disclosure, Omi and I are actually friends. He kicked my guy's teeth in a couple years ago, back when they were when he was in junior college and I was coaching against him. But we became friends through that when you were at Wabanzi.
Yes, sir.
And then you went to Grandview, so you're a national champion in junior college NAIA. And probably we first became friends, like really, with one of your assistant coaches who wrestled for us at Merrimack, Quentin Haynes. So it's interesting watching the growth of the program. I think one of the coolest shout outs I've ever heard anybody give on my podcast was when Rob Cole shouted you out of completely nowhere. We were just talking, and we were talking about growing the sport and growing the population of your school. And out of nowhere, you probably remember better than I do, he's like, you need to talk about your guy, Omi Acosta, down at Life. There's 500 or so kids at the school, and 100 plus of them are on the wrestling team. Was he accurate with those numbers?
Yeah, he's accurate. Rob Cole's a pretty cool guy. I actually met him, and when he got the job at Stanford, one of my buddies, that's his associate head coach, Enoch. I went over to hang out with him, and Rob Cole opened me with arms wide open, showed me the facility at Stanford, and talked to me a little bit about fundraising and how to be a better coach. And it's really thankful for that guy. It comes from a guy like that to come and talk to a small college coach was pretty awesome from his part to do that.
Yeah, well, that saying, real recognizes real, but you're right, at that level, because those guys, even if they recognize what you're doing, they don't have to acknowledge it, right? So for him to give you a shout on that was, I told him, I texted you as soon as it was over. I'm like, when this comes out, it's going to pop up. So I know I recruited for a long time. That's back then is when minutes were bills, so I had $500 a month cell phone bills, but besides literally just beating up the phone and networking with people, what are you doing to bring in so many kids, both on the men's and women's side of the program?
The thing is that everybody wants to be part of something bigger than themselves. We like selling the dream, and here at LifeU, we're in a great city. We're outside of Atlanta. Great campus, great administration. We just basically find kids that are LifeU fit, meaning that I usually look for a kid that reminds me of myself, inner city kid, we're next to a city, and we'll bring him in here. We talk to them and mentor them to be the best they could be on and off the mat. And going back to what you're asking, how do I get so many guys? In the beginning it was kind of difficult getting guys. Nobody knew who LifeU was. Now everybody wants to come wrestle for LifeU, which is a good thing. And sometimes guys get turned the other way because we're too tough. They might go to the school next door just because we're a tough team. But if they want to work hard and compete for to be the best version of themselves on off the mat, this is the place to do it at.
And you guys are largely known as a chiropractic school?
Yes.
But there's other majors here, obviously,
yes, sir.
Right? Tell if people are watching, tell them
Yeah,
about it.
so, LifeU started as a chiropractic school back in 1974. But obviously, as the school keeps growing, you realize that we're more than just a chiropractic school. We have a business degree. We have exercise science, nutrition, psychology, positive psychology, coaching psychology, and nutrition as well. So our majors are not like your regular liberal arts college. We're focused on those couple majors that we have, and that's what we offer. We don't go and try to do different things. We stick to majors that are going to help you being a well human being, to teach us about nutrition. And all the majors interact with each other with vitalism, which is the philosophy of the school that what makes the body heal itself, and everything all comes from from the spine. So it's a pretty cool philosophy, and usually wrestlers, that's how I want to go to school for, either nutrition or exercise science.
Yeah, like a lot of the guys, I think back in the day, a lot of guys wanted to be teachers, right? Because you're like, okay, if I want to be a coach, then I got to be a teacher. And like somebody like myself, I had a different career path, and then you do well enough economically that you can just go coach, right? And the money, and now it's changed where people are making a real living off of coaching, especially, some of the best coaches in the country are running kids clubs, Olympians, things like that. Like I visited Pinnacle up there in Minnesota, and those kind of guys like Askren, Izzy, all these guys they're doing amazing jobs. And so I think that perspective is opened a little bit, right? So like you can be a nutritionist, right, and then give back to the sport. Like somebody can go be a general manager at a company and give back to the sport, those kind of things. So when you're talking to these kids, I would guess that there's a lot of buy-in. Obviously, wrestlers are super fit physically, and a lot of those majors fit right in with that, right?
Correct. And like I said before, with the whole chiropractic thing, there's a lot of schools out there that offer free chiropractic care to their student athletes. Like here, if you pay tuition here, you get free chiropractic, you get free nutritional help, you get counseling, all part of being a student athlete here. There's not a lot of small colleges that got that opportunity to give it to their athletes, and here it's like a unique place. We got all these different resources that you could potentially get if you're a LifeU student.
That's awesome. So let's change gears a little bit. I got a chance to work with you and your staff this summer on your Fargo camp and that kind of thing. You got a great staff. Why not just give a couple of those guys a shout out and kind of what each of them do as part of their role, whether they're recruiting, managing the kids, whatever it is they do.
Yeah, so we got my right-hand man, Cole Mannion. He's a great guy. He's been with us for the past 4 seasons, I believe, and he's just a good guy. He's a go-getter. He likes doing other things I don't like to do, so he keeps me on my toes, and he's always there to help. Then we got my left-hand man, Dalton Bailey. I coached him when he was an athlete. He was my first ever national finalist. He's a loyal guy. He lives down the street, and he just loves LifeU wrestling more than anybody that I know. He'll do anything for the program. And as we continue on, I like surrounding myself with great people. We got one of my best friends, Quentin Haynes. I got him to move down from Iowa. He came down here, he's just a social guy. All the guys on the team love him. He's like my hype man. So it's good to have Coach Chiu on staff. Got Coach Early, who he came from Indiana Tech. He was a national champ. He moved down to Atlanta. A lot of people moved down to Atlanta looking for a better opportunity for jobs, and he helps out. He's in there all the time. And we got so much other guys that could, give a shout out to. We got Trey Horton. He's a volunteer assistant. We got Coach Grant, JJ Perez. There's so many guys that are sticking around. So if I miss your name, I'm sorry. You're still the man.
So Quentin actually wrestled for us coming out of high school, and I got a chance to visit with him yesterday. Shout out Q, going in the Hall of Fame of his high school.
Yeah.
But it was funny because he was coached by the late, great Willie Gadsden. And Willie and my father were great friends, and I was really good friends with Willie. And so when we got Q out of high school, in St. Louis, you don't get a kid out of an Iowa high school. There's 9 junior colleges up there. And if I try to do my Willie impression, I'll get emotional, but he was like, you need to get this guy. You came up and did great. But it's like sometimes getting young men out of spaces where you don't think you get them and sort of transplanting them into a new environment, they blossom. I feel like that's what you guys are doing here a lot, right?
Yeah, that happened to me. I'm from Dominican Republic. Went to school in Miami for a little bit. Then I went to JUCO in Illinois. And I went to Grandview in Iowa. So getting out of your comfort zone makes you develop. It makes you become a man, in my opinion. So I think, we recruit guys from different areas of the country, and we show them what we're all about. And we get them from their comfort zone, from their homes, and they get here, they become a man, they learn how to be on time, they learn how to be respectful, and they don't have mom and daddy there telling them what to do every day. They got to follow rules and guidelines. So I think getting out your comfort zone that's how creates champions, in my opinion.
I want to go back to comfort zone, so let me forget, but a D1 coach gave me one of the best pieces of advice in the world about recruiting. He said, ask the mom what's going to happen if 4 or 6 weeks in your son calls you and says, hey, coach, coach isn't being fair to me, he's picking on me, Coach Q's beating me up in practice every day, I don't want to be here anymore. He said, if the mom says, you made a promise, tough it out, kid will be fine. If the mom says, you got to go home, you come on home, it's okay, probably going to be a problem, because unless he's really good, he's going to struggle. Mm-hmm. And he said, the dad's going to say, stay. I mean, again, there's exceptions to both sides of the rule. Like, my mom, you guys know my mom, I'm staying, but I think that's probably a lot of the homework you're doing with people, right? Like making sure you know their families. And when there is a legitimate problem, like if there's a death in the family, if, maybe academically their high school didn't prepare them for this college life, then you do have relationships with those parents, right?
Yeah, 100%. The thing is that, it's normal to get homesick. Sometimes I want to be on the beach. I'm from Dominican Republic, and I'm still here working, trying to be great. So you're going to get homesick. You're going to, it's part of overcoming adversity. It's part of being a student athlete. Like, you're not going to feel like going to class sometimes, but guess what? You got to wake up and go to class anyway. You don't feel like being here, but hey, if you want to be great, you're going to have to be here regardless. So I think we talk to our guys about shifting that mentality of being so sad, and instead of doing it, just put your head down and go to work regardless of circumstances. It's not about how you feel, it's about how you show up and get to work. So we get to a point that a kid wants to go home or whatever, yeah, we'll include the parents, but at the end of the day, it's all about what the student athlete wants to do, and we'll make sure we mentor them, make sure we love them, and make sure that we have the support that they need for them to be able to succeed. So once they see the big picture, it's easy for them to stay. They're not going to want to leave.
Yeah. Well, and you're winning. And frankly, when you're winning's a really good deal for a lot of things. Like if you're around a bunch of people, men and women's team winning, like, okay, if that means I got to stay later to win, like, I think it'd be hard to stay late if you're the only guy and the team's losing. Mm-hmm. But when the team's winning, staying late is normal, right? Eating right is normal. Not making bad decisions on the weekend is normal. Mm-hmm. So I've talked to both you and Q about this off air, but one of the blessings of this podcast is you get to talk to great coaches from all over the country, and you talk to them off air, not just on air. One of the coaches said to me that we need to redefine the word failure. And it reminded me of the word comfort zone. You said, like, we have this comfort zone, and if we go outside of our comfort zone, by definition, we're uncomfortable. But the first time you try something new, you almost always fail. Like they show like a little kid trying to crawl and walk and run. And there's all these other things in life, right? Like if you need to teach somebody a sweep single and they've only ever done a high crotch, right? Like they're not going to hit it perfectly the first time. And he said, instead of saying that failed, that didn't work, you lost, it's you're closer to succeeding. And it's a paradigm shift, right? It's how you look at it. Like you got a bunch of kids wrestling tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to want them to probably try some new things. It's November. Mm-hmm. Like, and part of trying new things is having a roommate, living away from home, like not going home every weekend. So you're a guy I know that's always, growing your mind and growing the sport. Like, I'm interested. What do you think about that philosophy about the comfort zone and being uncomfortable and sort of reframing, what failure actually is?
The reality is we're not perfect beings. We're not perfect beings. We're not perfect beings, so therefore we're going to fail. The question is, what are you going to do when you fail? And you could either fail and get better, or you could fail and quit, right? So when we talk to our guys and everything, we tell them to fail forward. And that's one of the things that my AD is big on. If you fail forward, get back up and get to work again. The one thing that you cannot recover is when you completely quit, right? So as long as you don't quit and you keep moving forward, even if you fail and learning from those lessons, you're not really failing. You're just gaining experience and getting better and getting that knowledge not to do it again.
Yeah, I agree. And like we had Seth Gross on and Thomas Gilman on this summer after their great tournaments, and they talked about the ability to not carry quote failure with you, right? Like it's important that a healthy fear of certain things is important, but to let fear paralyze you is really where now like the cart's driving the horse. So I think that stuff's really interesting. So you mentioned you wrestled at Grandview. I think you guys have now built the rivalry up. I mean, obviously, they've won the majority of the national titles, but you broke their streak. And I saw you where you went back there. I know you and Nick and that whole crew are still close. but I also know you want to beat their brains in. So tell me a little bit about, that's got to be a dichotomy, right? Because, I know Q wrestled up there too, and so like, what's that like where you respectfully want to beat them, but, they also played an important role in your life?
I mean, 100%. Without Grandview, they won't be like you. That's how you say it, because that's where I came from. It's a product. And I know my coach is proud of what I became. He's the one that made me the man that I am today. But in reality, when you look at the big picture, I don't care if you're my uncle, my mom. When it's wrestling, it's business. I'm trying to win. I'm trying to compete. And it wasn't a rivalry before. They were kicking our butt the whole time.
Yeah.
Now it's a rivalry because we beat them one time. But before that, there wasn't no rivalry. You can't have a rival without winning, without even touching. There's times that they blanked us. But now we're to a point that we're tough enough that we could keep up, and we're tough enough to, when we get punched, we could punch back. And that's what Mitchell taught me. We're tough, and that's what lucha is. It's overcoming adversity, and it doesn't matter who it is. It could be whoever. We're going to step up to the ring. We're going to wrestle them. Even if it's my coach, my mom, anybody, we're going to compete.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like last year after the tournament, you were kind enough, we all went out, had some dinner and stuff, and Grant Turner went with us, who helps me host weighing in, Nike USA Wrestling guy, and also one of the assistants at Grandview. And it was interesting watching, because like I'm sort of Switzerland, like I'm friends with all you guys, but I'm not in the weeds. I did that life. I'm not doing that life now, so I have massive respect for all you guys, because I know how draining it is. But I can sort of just be the guy, say a few funny lines on the commentary, and then just go out and split a pizza with you guys. But I loved the energy. Like, you guys are just like brothers. You're just teasing each other. But it's like you would tease Ali or Nate or Q the same as you would tease Grant, and it's nothing to do with the schools and stuff like that. So, tell me about your team this year. Like, I looked at the rankings. I did a duel with Baker in Ottawa. So I'm looking at all the rankings, and I see a ton of life you guys in there. So are you guys? It looks like you're ranked at least in the top 20 with all 12 guys, right?
Yeah. So we're number 2 in the country. We got all 12 guys, I believe, are top 10. Yeah. So basically, yeah, we're a tough team, man. We got a lot of guys that are returning, that are coming back. We got a couple transfers that are making an impact right away, and it's a fun team. However, like every team is different. Every year is different. So we're just trying to make sure we get everything together and make sure the guys are healthy, classes are going well, and if everything goes well, we'll be able to compete for something that we want, something we never had, which is, you guys know what, I'm not going to mention it,
Yeah, but it's out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and I'm guessing you're like a lot of NAIA schools where you may have a kid or two that transfers in at the semester that could be a significant impact, or sometimes guys come over and based on their last situation, credit-wise, it's going to take them a semester to get eligible. So even this, as good as the team we see tomorrow, that may not be your final team, right?
Yeah, it never could be the final team. God forbid there's injuries, there's guys who are not doing the right thing. So when we're picking the right people to compete, to take the conference, to go to nationals, we got to make sure they're the best representation of the coaching staff, the best representation of Life University. So we want to make sure we put the best product out there. It doesn't matter who it is. We try not to get involved with feelings, because some guys might be seniors, and that might be the only shot to be able to go to nationals. So it's a hard decision, but we try to be unbiased and just look at the numbers. Do you beat this guy? Do you lose to that guy? That's what we really look at, and that's how we pick who's going to be the guy that's going to go to conference.
And for the people that don't know, NAIA is a little different. It's 12 athletes can go, and you can double up at 6 weights. So you can, just so people don't know that, if you don't, like you could have the first 6 weights all double up and leave the last 4 weights open. Usually, from what I've seen, there's usually 1 weight that's open. You double up at least 1 or 2 weights. If you had all 10, you can still double up at 2. So it's usually a minimum of doubling up at 2, but it can be up to 6. Mm-hmm. And so what's interesting about that is it's a blessing and a curse, right? Like if I'm the best guy at my weight, normally that means, okay, I'm going to the qualifier, and if I qualify, I'm going. Not necessarily. If I got to be one of the 12 best guys on the team. Now, conversely, if I'm behind you and you're the national champ, I still got something to wrestle for, because if my coach thinks, or our coach thinks I can make the finals, then, and we both score points at nationals. That's the other thing, like in open tournaments, or like in team tournaments, like the scuffle, a lot of times there's only 1 point score. If you go to the nationals, you're scoring points.
Yep.
So, I never coached that. Like, I coached junior college, 10 guys, 10 weights. How is that different, like sort of evaluating talent? Because, you know, like I'm trying to get literally my 10 best guys spread out, right? Like, you know, when I had Quentin, like he was really strong. I'm like, he could probably bump. And we had a good guy above him, but like, if we didn't, and we had another guy right behind him, I'm like, maybe we bump one of them. You don't have to do that. So what's that like?
I think, in my opinion, I think the NAIA has a great model. It gives student athletes more opportunities to compete. So obviously with 12 guys, it's more gamesmanship. You know, you got to be able to pick the right 12 guys that are going to help you win a national title. So you have to look at what's the hardest weight class in the country. There's a lot of different little things that go into play when you're picking your 12 guys. So like, for example, if one weight class is super tough, and I might have 2 guys there, I might not pick any of those guys. Those guys don't have a chance to compete there. So you just have to deal with how the weight class stacked or whatnot. But I like it just because it gives more opportunities for other people to compete. Usually guys, like last year we had Stonecheck and Balmaceda wrestle each other in the semis. You know, it's unfortunate they couldn't meet each other in the finals, but in my opinion, those were the 2 best guys in the country, and they met each other in the semis. But it's a great thing. We have 2 hammers in a way, and they meet each other in the finals. I haven't had that yet here at Life University, and that's something that I'm looking forward to having. And it just makes the team tougher. You know, you got to beat the guy that's in front of you, that's right there in the room. You could watch how hard is he working. You could watch if he's lazy. So there's different things that could go playing with that, you know.
I always thought the trick of it too is this, like, I think familiarity helps the lesser wrestler. Like if we walk in the first week and we scrap and you beat me by 14 points, when we wrestle all the time, the gap's probably going to close because it's a lot easier for me to just shut down 1 or 2 of your best holds than it is for you to figure out how to beat me by 18 or 19 points. And so, like, I think that's interesting too. Like, let's say somehow I figure out a way to beat you, but then we go to all the tournaments, you're making the finals, and I'm in the 7th place match. Like, it really doesn't matter if I won a wrestle off. You're going to score points. I mean, I assume that's how you guys look at it.
We don't really do wrestle offs for an
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
For example, if you're my teammate and I wrestle you here all the time, I could probably beat you here at Life U all the time. However, are you going to beat the guys that are beating me in competition? So for us, that's why the first couple of tournaments in the beginning, that's our wrestle off. All the open tournaments we go to, that's our wrestle off. For example, we'll put all the guys in one weight, and whoever does the best, that's who's going to start. And that takes it away from the coaches saying, "Oh, Coach O's, is trying to screw me over. He likes that guy better."
More, yeah.
No, I do not. I like who wins. That's why, like, I
we
don't
play
have favorites.
Coaches play favorites.
Yeah, but I favorite who wins. So that takes it out of me. So we just let them go to open and figure out who's the best guy that way.
Yeah, I think, like we do the podcast about everything that happened in wrestling, and like I understand why schools do wrestle-offs. I understand why they make them public. I understand like they're trying to grow the sport, but like at Ohio State, Carson Karchla had a wrestle-off and lost. Nobody thought he wasn't starting. So then it's like, well, what was the point of the wrestle-off? I mean, I'm sure there's a point that I'm missing. I mean, Tom Ryan's a very smart coach. I'm sure they got it figured out over there. But on the surface, especially if you're trying to explain the sport to somebody new, right? Like if I beat you in a wrestle-off, they're like, well, we're still starting Omi Acosta. Like why? Well, because he's the defending national champ and this guy's 4-12. Okay, well then why'd they get a wrestle-off, right? Like it gets a little tricky that way. So big news for you guys, like the tournament, which we've already gone, is on Flow, and then I heard you made a deal with Flow for your dual meets.
Yeah.
So that's great because you have kids from all over the country, so now these parents get an opportunity to see these kids even more, right?
Yeah, and I think Flow shows a good platform for wrestling. And it's all about growing the sport. And in my opinion, it's just easy. It just brings quality for parents to go, oh wow, Life U's, all their matches are on Flow. It's way better than having, putting them on YouTube, which is not a good representation.
Unless it's the USA Wrestling
channel.
YouTube
There you go.
Now that one's good. So for sure on that. So we have a ton of coaches that watch this, and I think. So it's different. Like I always say like this, like if Bill Belichick retired tomorrow and you and me take over the Patriots, like we can't say we won 10 Super Bowls or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. But you guys built this, literally built this from nothing, right? Like you started the program?
No, I did not. Actually, it was Mike Miller. He was here actually a couple of weeks ago for our 10-year anniversary of the program, and he did a good job. He put the foundation, but I brought in the
But they weren't placing a lot of placed on a national level.
They were, but not as how it is now.
Right. It wasn't a perennial top 5, top 10 team.
100%.
Okay, so shout out to Mike Miller. Sorry, but so like my dad started a program literally from nothing, and there's schools all around the country, and I don't want to say them because I don't want it to seem disparaging to the people that are before them, but a ton of our coaches are trying to grow programs in the winners. They're not trying to grow the sport. Like when you'll do a thing or two to grow the sport, but your job is to make like few national champions and have 12 national champions on the men's side and 10 on the women's side. I mean, that's the goal. What's one or two things that either has been successful for you that we might not think of, or what were one or two mistakes? Because I feel like you and me talk off, in real life, and I'm like, I wouldn't do that. I did that, and it didn't work out for me, and here's why. And you choose to follow the advice or not. It's just input, right? But like, what's one thing maybe that has worked really well for you, and what's one thing that you learned pretty quickly wasn't as effective as you thought it might be?
I would say in the beginning, just focusing on winning at all costs. I was a guy that was, when I first got the job, I was young, full of energy, and I just wanted to, I was playing comparison games with another school that shouldn't have. There's never going to be another place like the place I was before, and there's never going to be another place at Lakeview. So I just told myself to stop playing comparison games and stop feeling bad for myself. I wanted to win at all costs, and it came with different things. I had a lot of behavioral issues, and finally when I stopped worrying about winning or losing, but worrying about creating change through wrestling, that's when the kind of like things shifted, and that's when we got a lot better. We started bringing guys that want to do the right thing on off the mat, guys that want to buy in to what lucha is, which is max effort in everything you do in your life, and that's how we made the shift. But it was, I took, ownership of how it was. I looked in the mirror and I was like, we're not doing well because I'm not putting those values that mean so much to me. I'm worrying about winning rather than worrying about building these guys to be the best that they could be. And when that happened, that's when things started getting better. I'm happier now. I don't have to worry about if I lose a match or a duel, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm just going to know I'm going to get better. Obviously, I'm a competitor. I want to freaking win all the time. But I'm looking at the bigger picture, which is creating men of, powerful men through wrestling.
Super honest answer. It really is. I respect the answer. There's a saying that says comparison is the thief of joy. And I think essentially that's what you're saying. Like, hey, you can always, it's also, I think comparison is the thief of excellence, right? Because like, if you run 5 miles a day in the morning and I'm only running 3, like I'm good. But if somebody else is running 6, or somebody just runs 10 and they're a better runner than you, it's like, you got to do what you got to do to be a champion. And you're either going to be unhappy or happy if you're always measuring yourself up against somebody else. What's one thing that maybe worked for you, I mean, besides working hard, being organized? Is there maybe a tip as a coach that building a program, like even if it's focusing on specific wrestling situations or administratively, what's something that maybe was almost surprising to you how effective it was?
The number one thing is just changing your mindset. Like, for example, like I have a huge tournament this weekend, and guess what? I love running tournaments. It's the most favorite thing that I love doing. In reality, I don't like it. I hate it. I have to get a whole bunch of mats, manage a whole bunch of things, but this is what I do. I get to do a hobby for a living, so you gotta count your blessings, man. There's gonna come things that you don't like doing, but then there's a lot of great things that I like doing. I love mentoring guys. I love wrestling. I love traveling. I love bus rides with my guys. I love connecting and networking. And it's all because of this job, but also I have receipts that I don't like doing. I have office stuff I don't like doing. I don't like talking to people. I don't talk about wrestling, but I still have to talk to other people. So it's just getting the things done even when you don't feel like it, and always giving 100% even if you don't want to do it. And I think that's the biggest key, because you're not going to feel like doing things all the time. But if you put your mindset and you just shift it, hey, I love talking to you. I love doing everything. I like running tournaments. I like doing everything. So just a little mindset trick that helped me out.
Well, you're the leader of the program, right? So if you walk in the room, or your assistant coaches, you guys all walk in and staring at your shoes and barking at people, like the mood trickles downhill, right? I mean, like somebody actually said to me the other day, like, man, you must get tired of traveling. I'm like, the minute I say I stop traveling, it's the minute people stop putting me on the air. It's the minute I get to stop talking about wrestling. The minute now my relationship with USA Wrestling isn't the same, if I'm not willing to put this time in. And like you said, we all love wrestling. There's a few people here behind the camera right now. We all love wrestling. Wrestling has made our lives better. Like, I grew up soft. I know you didn't. I grew up, and I mean that as a compliment to my parents. Like I grew up easy, didn't worry about anything, just was told to be a good student and a good human, and was a good student all the time and a good human most of the time, and we all have our failures, but for the most part. But I think that just having that perspective, like you're saying, like there's certain parts of doing these podcasts I don't enjoy. Like I got to go back and make sure I did everything right. But like okay, don't do it anymore. Well, no, I want to do that. All right, well then that's part of it. Like if you want to have a good wrestling team, you have to recruit. You have to work out with your guys. You have to study film. You have to stay on them on their grades. You have to know if their girlfriend's a problem, an asset, or a liability. You have to know their girlfriend's name. Like these are the things that have to happen, because a kid will know if you're just an asset to them. Like, oh, I'm older than you. Omi's worth 18 points to us. You go, okay. Okay. Like, I'm going to get through this because I need to do this to get through life. But if you're worth 18 points, I'm worth 18 points to you, I'm going to give you 18 points worth of love and respect. If I go, you're my guy, ride or die, whatever, you go 0-2, you scored 0 or 30, you're still my guy. As long as you do your best, those relationships, then people run through a wall. Because, if you go out of bounds, there's 10 seconds left, you're down 1, there's no coaching tip. There's no magic move. Go get one. People laugh like, what does go get one mean? It's like, if you've been in the sauna with that person, if you've been on the treadmill with that person, if you sat and listened to them cry when they had a loved one go, it's all in that saying. And I think that's what you guys are building here. So it's very cool to see. I'm excited. I'm going to be on the mic with my guy Nate tomorrow, so we're going to have some fun. And there's going to be some good scraps, right? I mean, any particular weight classes, matches that, which schools are bringing in like some other top 10 guys that people should kind of, maybe if they go back and watch it on Flow, they can keep an eye on.
Southeastern's going to have a great group of guys. Reinhardt, which is down the street, they're going to be pretty tough. UNC's bringing some hammers. The
North Carolina?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
So they're going to be tough. Also, Campbell is bringing some other guys. So I think it's going to be a good shakeup from all divisions. And I think all weight classes are stacked with guys that are ranked in the curve. I think I was looking, and there's over 50-plus NAIA ranked guys in each weight. So in each other weight. So it's going to be a great event, and I think it's going to be some great wrestling. And I'm glad you get to join us.
It's a pleasure, man. I think last year was the first year I did it, and I enjoyed calling the matches as much as I enjoyed just hanging out with you guys afterwards and just watching your program grow. I'm a fan of guys that I coached. I'm also fans of guys that I coached against that I thought won the right way. Like, you were always respectful. And my dad always teased me, you're friends with a lot of these guys. I go, because when they come over to shake your hand, I go win the tournament, stud. I go, a lot of guys just walk away or curse them out or whatever the case may be. And I go, when you're 19, you remember how people treated you. When you could do nothing for them, they remember. And when they're in a position to help you, they either will or they won't. I was with Q yesterday. I said, you're at a stage in life now. You don't need me for anything. So if we're still talking, it must mean because we actually are friends now. And that's like a real blessing. You're still a young buck, but that's going to start happening. So, all right. Anything else before we sign off?
I want to thank everybody, Lifeview Administration, Jesse Roberts, Jamie Prendergast, Elena, Coy, Pope for always handling, all the issues with men's wrestling. Make sure all our guys are ready to go with eligibility, all those little things, travel. So I'm really thankful for you guys. And lastly, I will give a shout out to my club, Club Lucha. We just recently started here in Marietta. If you want to get better at wrestling, you're local in Marietta, Georgia, come check out Club Lucha. And God bless you all. That's pretty much.
For Coach Omi, I'm David. Thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll speak to y'all soon.